Did Microsoft see coming, when they were busy disrupting IBM, what Apple was going to do to their business with a completely different model? And then the kings of innovation themselves, Apple, did they see Spotify coming when they were busy disrupting the music industry with iTunes? We are, all of us, in a perpetual turmoil now. A nice little Etsy maker from Melbourne's piece on the ground beneath our feet is constantly moving. Deloitte did a report last year that suggested that 65% of Australian businesses will be disrupted in the next 5 years. When you're going through a pipeline, and you often talk about the product pipeline in a digital company, big rocks get stuck in the pipe. Little pebbles flow through really well. And I think that's a very, very powerful analogy to testing cultures, where if you do small incremental changes, they flow through for a start. You don't get stuck on the conundrum and data and paralysis of a big change and the fear around big change. You just keep testing the little things and making progress, or rolling back and making progress in another direction, a testing culture. But that doesn't just have to be about agile technology. I think autonomy and the freedom to know that you have the ability to have an idea, be you a PA or a strategy director, pitch it, argue for it, have reasons for doing it and a way to do it, but be able to implement it in your team, fundamental to autonomy and success. And creativity, obviously a big passion area for the people at Etsy. To use a beautiful example, I think of autonomy too, by a woman called Ingrid. She's our sole operator in the Netherlands. And she happened to have fantastic contacts into the unbelievable cultural institution Rijksmuseum. I don't know if many of you have been. It's an absolutely beautiful collection of art in Amsterdam. And she pulled a project together through her contacts and her own initiative to do a partnership with the Rijksmuseum, where they released the intellectual property in the paintings in their collection to Etsy sellers to create works. And these are the works they created, made out of the most beautiful decorative arts and paintings in the Rijksmuseum. Beautiful shoot, and the marketing results from this was about 3,000 euros to do this project, and it reached 12 million people globally. It's quite a successful marketing return on investment. And just purely her autonomy, her initiative, a beautiful innovation. Now, place often comes up in workshop and workplace culture discussions, and I love a great office. I personally don't think it is everything. I've worked in beautiful, fabulous, innovative offices that have really crap cultures as an internal company. And I've worked in appalling offices. The early days of Seek, we had a leak in the roof, right, Matt? And we were having the time of our lives. It was an incredibly vibrant culture in those early days. And now, no doubt. So I don't think it's everything, but certainly it is a place where you express a lot about your culture and you can reflect what your values are. So certainly at Etsy, this is our craft labs room. It's one of our biggest meeting rooms, and it always has craft supplies. You'll often find it has what's it called? Screen printing presses and so on. So there's often people working on personal projects up there in out of hours or actually during the day if they need a mental break. But we also meet there, and it certainly is a creative space that expresses what we're about and would be a comfortable place when we bring members of the Etsy community in to meet with us and collaborate. And of course, sustainable practices being in a core part of our mission as a company, we would want to reflect that into our offices. So this is our carpentry workshop in New York, where we recycle wood to build our desks, and sometimes it also means, of course, bespoking them to certain heights if it's a standing desk and so on. So certainly it is a place to reflect your values. I'll never forget when it went into my diary, my first trip to New York, that the office tour was going to be 2.5 hours, and I thought, I can book another meeting. I'm sure that's a mistake. But no, it was 2.5 hours, because absolutely everything in that office, and this is the case in all of our offices when we control them ourselves, is has a history, has a story, is made by an Etsy seller. The creative entrepreneurs whose businesses we help to start In Australia, almost 50% of them have never had a business before when they join Etsy platform, so we're really helping to educate them and bring them into a new way of working. And of course, our mission to grow those businesses. Also, the mindful and thoughtful consumers who are interested in the provenance of the products they buy, rather than mass production or dubious background on a product. But it is also about our staff, and we very much see ourselves as part of the Etsy community. And one of the traditions we've always had in my team and in others, this is us recently, having, of course, what we had to, didn't we? Eatsy. Which is that we eat together. So our food program, I know there's a lot of different food ideas, but our food program is very much not just about, we have some snacks and so on, but it's not just about having food accessible, maybe to keep you at work, but it's about sitting down and eating together as a family, as a community, and spending time together and knowing each other. So everywhere in the world, we always have a meal once a week together. But what is a leader in that environment, in this new way of working? I think my experience, if it's all going well, if all of these elements I've talked about are flowing in your team and you've got the right people in the right jobs, your leadership is simply coach and cheerleader, I would summarize it as. You are simply supporting and, in a sense, in that, what's that ice game, boule or whatever, where you clear the ice in front of the ball. What's it called? Curling, that's it. I always forget what it's called. I think your job is simply to clear the ice in front of your empowered team. But of course, we're not always in perfect flow. And then what I would say, our role, if someone isn't quite in the right role, or if a manager is not encouraging their team to be autonomous, there's micromanagement going on, our role as a leader is a course corrector to try and get back onto these tracks. And that would be my reflections on leadership in this environment.